You walk out to the kitchen garden in the middle of June and you stop dead at the row of pepper plants because something is wrong. The leaves on 3 of the plants are yellowing from the bottom up, and the new growth at the top is wilted and limp, even though the soil under your boot is soaking wet. You water them anyway, because what else would a body do? And by the end of the week, those 3 plants are dead. You pull them out of the soft ground with no resistance at all, and the roots come up brown and slimy and rotted clean through. So you replant. And the same thing happens to 2 more. Then the cucumbers go the same way. So you walk into the garden center, and the man behind the counter is kind enough about it. He sells you a $40 bottle of synthetic fungicide. You spray it, and the plants keep dying. He sells you a $30 bottle of root stimulator. You pour it on, and the plants keep dying. He sells you a $20 bag of beneficial microbial powder, and you stir it into the soil with your own 2 hands, and the plants keep dying. By the end of that season, you have spent $90 on garden center products that did not solve the problem. And a full quarter of your kitchen garden is bare soil, where peppers and cucumbers ought to have been. Now I want you to sit with this. There is a $3 bottle of hydrogen peroxide on the shelf at any drugstore in America. The same plain brown bottle that has sat on those shelves for over 100 years. And it handles root rot, fungal disease, poor germination, contaminated pots, and tired, packed-down soil better than any of the specialty products that Garden Center will ever sell you. My grandmother used it. My wife Melinda's mother used it. Every careful gardener in this country, before the garden chemical aisle swelled up in the 1970s and started selling families a separate bottle for every separate trouble, knew that one brown bottle did most of the work. They paid pennies. The rest of us got taught to pay by the bottle, over and over, season after season. My name is Aaron Miller. I am Amish, and I farm here in LaGrange County, Indiana. And I am going to be honest with you the way I always am, because honesty is the only thing that makes a video like this worth your time. Melinda and I keep one brown bottle of 3% hydrogen peroxide out in the garden shed, and that is the whole of it for what the English would call chemical garden treatment. No specialty fungicides, no commercial root stimulators, no expensive microbe powders in a bright bag. 1 bottle, 5 uses, $3. The same plain chemistry that has been working in careful gardens for 150 years. Today I am going to walk you through 5 real uses of that bottle in your garden, and I'm going to tell it slow, and I'm going to keep my word to you on every dilution and every safety word along the way. Stay with me, because the 4th use is the one most folks get wrong, and the 5th one is the one that quietly saves a whole corner of your garden. Now let me be straight with you about the title before we go one step further. The old trick was never truly lost. Folks still talk about it in the gardening forums and the homestead magazines, and your own grandmother likely knew it. So when I say forgotten, I do not mean it vanished off the face of the earth. I mean it got buried under 50 years of marketing, buried under the steady drumbeat that says the answer to every garden problem is one more $20 bottle from the green aisle. Most folks never learned that the plain brown bottle in the medicine cabinet handles most of those problems better and for a fraction of the cost. That is what I mean by forgotten, not lost, just covered over. And before we go further, the old methods my family uses, there is more of them than fit in any one video, so I gathered the whole of it into a book over at aaronmiller.com. The book is the long version, and if you want it, it is there. I will not bring it up again. Now, 5 real uses. Number 1, treating root rot in a struggling plant. This is the use that saves more plants in more kitchen gardens than any other, so I want you to hear it plain. Root rot comes from waterlogged soil, poor drainage, or simple overwatering, conditions that smother the roots and let pathogens take hold, things the books call Pythium and Phytophthora and Fusarium. The plant wilts, even though the soil is wet. The lower leaves go yellow. The new growth slows, and within 2 weeks, if you leave it be, the plant dies. Here is the chemistry, told plain. Hydrogen peroxide kills root rot pathogens through oxidation. As the peroxide breaks down, it lets go oxygen radicals, and those radicals rupture the cell walls of the fungal organisms. The engineers and chemists have long names for it, but we just call it the burning that water cannot do. And at the very same time, that breakdown releases plain oxygen down into the soil, which the surviving healthy roots are desperate for, because they have been drowning. So you are killing the rot and feeding the root in one pour. That is why it works. Here is the method, and I will tell it slow. For mild root rot, mix 1 tablespoon of 3% hydrogen peroxide into 1 cup of water. Drench the soil right around the base of the plant. Let it drain through completely. Then repeat every 3 to 4 days for 2 to 3 weeks until you see new white root growth coming on. For severe root rot, you drench undiluted 3% peroxide once around the base, 1 treatment only at that strength, and then you follow up with the weekly drench, just as I described. But here is the part most folks get wrong, and here is the honest answer they do not want to give you. Peroxide alone does not fix root rot. The treatment is a 3-part fix, and you need all 3. First, you treat the pathogen with the peroxide drench. Second, you remove the rotted tissue. Gently lift the plant if you can, and trim away the black, slimy roots with clean scissors. Third, and this is the one folks skip, you fix the underlying cause. Improve the drainage, water less often, work some organic matter into the packed soil. All 3 steps together solve the problem. Peroxide alone, while you keep right on with the bad watering habit, only delays the inevitable. That is the honest scope. And it is the whole difference between the gardener who saves her plants and the one who keeps buying new ones. Number 2, sanitizing your containers, your pots, and your garden tools. This is the use that most home gardeners skip clean over, and it costs them more in lost seedlings than any other oversight I know of. Your pots and your seedling trays and your tools from last season carry surviving fungal spores, bacteria, and pest eggs that will infect this season's plants before they ever sprout. Those seedlings that mysteriously die in the second week, a great many of them are killed by pathogens left over from last year's dirty containers. The chemistry is the same oxidation as before. 3% peroxide kills the surface fungi, the bacteria, and most pest eggs. Here is the method. Empty all the old soil out of the containers and rinse them with clean water. Then spray the inside and the outside of each container with 3% peroxide, straight from the brown bottle, or for heavy buildup, soak the containers in a half and half mix of peroxide and water for 30 minutes. Spray your tools, your pruners, your trowels, your knives directly and let them sit 1 minute. Then wipe them dry with a clean cloth. Rinse everything with clean water before you use it again, so no leftover residue throws off the new soil. Do this before every planting season, in late winter, before you start your seedlings, and those second-week mystery deaths in your trays will stop. The pathogens that wintered over in your pots are gone, and your new seedlings start their life in a clean home. Number 3, soaking your seeds before planting for better germination. This use is one of the most documented in the horticultural research, and the results genuinely surprise folks the first time they try it. Seeds soaked in a weak peroxide solution before planting come up faster, at higher rates, with stronger early roots. There is a published study on Atlantic white cedar seed that documented near double the germination rate with a peroxide pre-treatment, and that is honest. That is in a real paper. Here is the chemistry, plain. A seed has a natural protective coat, built to resist decay through the long winter. But that same coat resists water in the spring, when the seed is supposed to wake up and grow. The peroxide softens that coat, kills the surface pathogens that would attack the emerging sprout, and delivers a little extra oxygen straight to the embryo inside. The result is a faster waking, a cleaner sprouting, and stronger early roots. Here is the method. Mix 1 teaspoon of 3% peroxide into 1 cup of warm water, about body temperature, not hot. Place your seeds in the solution and soak them. For small seeds, your lettuce, carrot, radish, basil, soak 30 minutes to 1 hour. For medium seeds, cucumber, squash, melon, sunflower, soak 1 to 4 hours. For large seeds, beans, peas, corn, soak 4 to 8 hours or overnight. Then drain and plant right away. Do not let the seeds dry back out, or you lose the benefit. Melinda uses this on every seed packet she opens in the spring. Cucumber seeds that normally took 8 to 10 days to sprout come up in 5. Pepper seeds that often failed altogether in cool spring soil come up reliable. Bean seeds she had stored 3 years, seeds starting to lose their life, still made a solid stand when she pre-treated them this way. The whole cost of pre-treating a season's worth of seed packets is about 10 cents. The improvement in your garden you can measure every year. Number 4. A foliar spray for fungal leaf diseases. This is the use I have to be most careful about with you, because the folks who talk about it online tend to oversell what a peroxide leaf spray can do, and I will not do that. So let me give you the honest scope first, before the method. What the leaf spray genuinely treats is powdery mildew. That white dusty fungal coat on squash and cucumber and melon leaves in humid weather, and downy mildew on lettuce and basil and grape leaves, and leaf spot on tomato and pepper and bean, and black spot on roses, and surface mold generally. What the leaf spray does not treat well, and here is where I have to be plain, is your insect pests. It will not deter or kill aphids, spider mites, or beetles to speak of. For bugs, you want neem oil or insecticidal soap instead. It does not handle bacterial leaf diseases either. Those want a copper-based spray, and it does nothing at all for viral plant disease, where the only honest answer is to pull the plant and burn it. The honest scope is the difference between a tool that works and a treatment you waste your time on. The peroxide leaf spray is a fungal disease tool, not a cure-all. Here is the method. Mix 1 tablespoon of 3% peroxide into 1 cup of water. Spray it onto the affected leaves in the early morning or the evening, never in direct hot sun, which will scorch the leaf. Coat the top and the underside of the leaves where you can see the fungus. Repeat every 3 to 5 days until the visible growth is gone. And here is a safety word I will not let slide past you. Do not use the soil strength dilution, the half and half, on your leaves. That stronger mix will burn the leaf tissue right off. The leaf spray is 1 tablespoon to a cup, not 1 cup to a cup. Mixing up those two dilutions is the single most common mistake folks make, and it is the difference between healing a plant and killing it. Test the spray on 1 single leaf of 1 plant first. Wait 24 hours and check for damage, because some plants are genuinely tender. Peace lilies, African violets, begonias, and orchids are known to take it badly. Most vegetable plants tolerate it well, but the test 1 leaf first rule is worth following every single time. Now, before I go on to the 5th use, let me pause for a moment. If you want to lower your bills, waste less, repair more, stretch your groceries, and run a steadier home, join our Amish home saving system and community. You will get the lessons, the home saving challenges, and a place to ask Melinda and me your questions whenever you get stuck. The link is down in the description. Now the last one. Number 5. Oxygenating packed down or waterlogged garden soil. This is the corrective treatment for soil that has gone wrong. Heavy clay that will not drain. Beds that have been overwatered. The low spot in the kitchen garden where standing water sits for hours after a rain. Those conditions smother the roots and create the airless, soured ground where root rot pathogens thrive in the first place. The chemistry, plain again. Peroxide breaks down in the soil into water and oxygen, and that released oxygen reaches the suffocating root zone and gives the surviving roots room to breathe, and it slows the soil pathogens at the same time. Here is the honest scope, and I will set it down plain. This is not a fertilizer, and it is not a permanent fix. The oxygen lasts hours, not weeks. The real solution to packed or waterlogged soil is mending the soil itself, working in organic matter, raising the beds, cutting a drain, growing cover crops, watering more sensibly. The peroxide treatment is a patch for stressed plants while you do the long work, not a substitute for proper soil care. Here is the method. Mix 1 tablespoon of 3% peroxide into 1 quart of water. That is a third of the root rot strength, the lightest of all the soil applications, because we are treating a whole bed, not one sick plant. Water the affected area with it the way you normally would water, once a week through the active growing season. In the off-season, the fall and the winter, put your effort into compost and drainage instead. Melinda uses this on the section of our garden where the spring runoff pools after a hard rain. About a tablespoon to a quart, once a week through May and June, until the ground dries enough for normal watering. The plants in that corner have not drowned since she started. But she will tell you herself. The real fix was the trench she dug to send the runoff away. The peroxide is the patch. The trench is the cure. Now the safety word plainly because this matters, and I repeat it every time. 1. Always use the 3% strength, the brown bottle from the drugstore. Never the 35% food-grade peroxide they sell online. That strength burns plant tissue, burns your skin, and is regulated as a hazardous material. 3% is the gardening strength, and that is final. 2. Never mix peroxide with vinegar. The combination makes peracetic acid, a corrosive irritant with harmful fumes. 3. Never mix peroxide with bleach, which makes toxic gas, and you should never mix any cleaner with bleach anyhow. 4. Match the dilution to the use and write it on the shed wall if you have to. Container cleaning, straight or half and half. Root rot, 1 tablespoon to a cup. Leaf spray, 1 tablespoon to a cup. Seed soak, 1 teaspoon to a cup. Soil oxygenation, 1 tablespoon to a quart. Mixing up the dilutions is the single most common mistake, and stronger is not better. Stronger burns. 5. Keep the peroxide in its original brown bottle, because light degrades it. That is the whole reason it comes in dark plastic, and stored cool and dark it holds full strength 2 to 3 years. 6. Test your tender plants first, 1 leaf. Wait a day. Check for harm. Now, I want to take a moment because here is where it all comes together. Look at what we walked through. 5 real uses of 1 $3 brown bottle in the garden. Root rot treatment, pot and tool sanitation, seed pre-treatment for stronger germination, foliar spray for fungal disease, and soil oxygenation for packed or waterlogged beds. Every one of those uses is backed by real chemistry and real practice in careful gardens for at least 50 years, not fabricated, not invented, not buried in some imaginary government bulletin. Real methods, done by real gardeners. Now look at what those 5 uses replace at the average gardener's shelf. A commercial fungicide for root rot, $20 to $40. A container sanitizer, $12 to $20. A seed germination booster, $10 to $20. A fungal disease leaf spray, $15 to $30. A soil oxygenation amendment, $8 to $20. That is somewhere between $65 and $130 of specialty products replaced every season for a household garden chemical budget that runs $200 to $300 a year. The 3% peroxide that replaces all 5 is $3 a bottle. 2 bottles a season, for most gardens, $6 total. The honest savings run $150 to $300 a year, every year, for the life of your garden. Over 20 years of gardening, that is $3,000 to $6,000 saved on chemistry that 1 brown bottle does on its own. Now here is the part I want you to sit with. There is no money, None at all, for the cleaning products industry and the garden chemical aisle that grew right out of it. In teaching a home gardener that a $3 bottle handles 5 different problems. There is a great deal of money in selling you separate bottles with separate labels for each separate trouble, dressed up in shiny green packaging, each one promising to be the one thing the last bottle was not. That is the whole engine of it. A thing you must rebuy forever is a far better business than a thing that sits on your shelf for 2 years and quietly does 5 jobs. So the simple old method sits quiet in the gardens of careful folks who never forgot. And most American gardeners spend a small fortune every year on chemistry that has been on the drugstore shelf for over 100 years. Now, I am not going to stand here in my shed and tell you there is a room full of people somewhere plotting against your pepper plants. It is not that. I do not call it a conspiracy, because a conspiracy needs men in a room agreeing to deceive you. It is worse than that, and stranger. It is a system that nobody had to sit down and arrange. The bright bottles simply had money behind them, and the plain brown bottle had none. So the bright bottles got the shelf, the advertising, and the kind man at the counter, and the brown bottle got forgotten. That is not a conspiracy. That is just who has a reason to teach you and who does not. And once you see the plain sense of it, you can be the one who remembers. You can be the one who never paid. So here is what I want you to do this week. Walk into the drugstore and spend $3 on one brown bottle of 3% hydrogen peroxide. Keep it in that original brown bottle and set it out in your garden shed or your potting area. Then pick one use to start with. If you have plants struggling with root rot right now, mix the cup and tablespoon drench and treat them this very evening. If your seed packets are sitting in the cabinet waiting on spring, plan to soak them in the teaspoon per cup solution the day before you plant. If your tools and pots have been sitting dirty in the shed since last fall, set aside an afternoon to clean and sanitize the whole lot with peroxide. Whatever you pick, the result will start showing inside a week. The struggling plant recovers. The seeds come up faster. The pots stand ready for clean planting. 5 different uses, 1 bottle, $3, real chemistry, real results. Tell me down in the comments which of these 5 uses you are going to try first, and what is the worst garden trouble you have had this year. And tell me, while you are there, what county you live in, and how old your house is, because I do read them. And if your grandmother or your great-grandmother had a garden trick of her own that we did not cover, share it. The old garden methods varied from region to region, and those little memories are exactly the kind of inherited knowledge that gets lost when nobody writes them down. And the comments on this video are how we save them. I read every single one. Next time, since we have been speaking of the small daily habits of a garden, I am going to show you the old way our family saves seed from one year's garden for the next year's planting. The saving, the drying, the storing, and the small habits that turn a single packet bought once into generations of seed, saved and shared and never paid for again. It is the natural next step after today. Until then, get the brown bottle, mix the right dilution, treat the right problem, and remember that the cheapest garden chemistry in the world is the one your grandmother already had on her shelf. That is how the careful old folks did it. That is how it is still done in any farmhouse that remembers.